a lot of you have seen us use these, which are just key switches that we've made that plug directly into the engine that allow us to turn the key and start the engine from the engine. But I need to make another one for a friend, and so we're going to be doing that with the Yamaha. But I figured while we're doing this, I mean, you're basically hot wiring the engine. Even though this isn't really like the movies where the person just rips the dash out of the car and the wires just happen to be hanging down with cuts in them with the wire exposed so they can touch them together and start the engine. Even though that's not really how that works either way, they both work the same way, and I'm going to show you how they work, but you need to understand how the key switch works before. Now the wire colors are going to be different depending on what brand you've got. Like the Mercury is going to be different from the Yamaha, and the Yamaha is going to be different than the Johnson Evinrude, but that's why we just made a few videos on the manufacturer colors. So if you look at this right here, this is a key switch, and yes, that is a Yamaha key switch inside of a Mercury key. Now if you want to know how that works, if you look right here on the key, this is an 853. I'm not sure if you can read that number, but then also on this key switch, if we just spin this thing back right here, you'll notice that there is an 853 there as well. So that number does match with the key. Even though this is a Mercury key switch and that is a Yamaha key, that Yamaha key number does match this ignition switch, and it does work. So they don't all match up like that, but this one here does. So we're going to be starting a Mercury key switch using a Yamaha key, even though they both have this nasty black thing off the top, and I got to clean all this up. But yeah, this is going to work. Just to make this simple, this is a Mercury key switch, this is a ground, and this black and yellow stripe is going to be the kill switch, which is important to know about, but we're not going to be concerned with those two. Here we're concerned with this red wire, which is going to be 12 volts constant power, this purple wire, which is supposed to get power when you turn the key switch to the on position, and then this yellow with a red stripe, which should give power whenever you turn the key to the on position or start position. So just so you can see what this looks like, if we've got our red wire here attached, you'll notice that our purple wires, if we attach these two, they have no continuity. But if we turn the key to the on position, boom, they have straight continuity, and there is no problems here, even though there's some resistance there, but that's between the meter leads and other stuff like that, or this key switch isn't 100%. But either way, you'll notice that those have continuity, but our yellow wire, which goes to our starter, does not have any continuity. But whenever we turn this to the start position, it does. So that's what activates our starter. And again, depending on the brand, the colors are going to change. For Yamaha, it's going to be different than Honda or Suzuki, but at least now you understand how the key switch works and what we're going to want to do when it comes to getting this engine to start or hot wire it. Now this red wire gets its 12 power from the battery from the engine. So as long as you have battery voltage going to the engine and your battery switch is on, then you should be able to get this thing to have power to it. And so as long as you know those wires when it comes up, it doesn't matter what you want to use, whether you want to use a rocker switch, a push button, a different type of switch, as long as you know which wire brings the 12 volts up to the switch, whatever you're going to use, and then which wire is going to be your key on power and which wire is going to be your start signal. So that way whenever you turn the key or you push the button or you use the rocker switch, whatever you're using, you know you're taking power from the 12 volt constant wire to the key on power, and then from the key on you also need to supply 12 volts to the starter signal, which is that starter wire, and that way it'll tell the engine to start. So we need to know those three different ones, and again, it doesn't matter what you use, whether that's another type of key switch, another key switch, a push button, a rocker switch. Just make sure that the amperages are right for whatever you're using, but we'll be able to make it work. And Yamaha is actually the easiest because if you notice, this is just straight up a harness and a key switch. So for us, you can make this wire as long as you want. I don't need it to be that long. For me, I like it, you know, a couple feet, maybe 5. So what we're going to do is we have this right here. I'm going to take this wire and I'm actually just going to go ahead and cut this and get this down to a length that we can work with, because you don't need that much wire for a key switch starter button. Now this is the easy part. Again, I just cut this down. I got maybe 5-6 feet here of length, and I've cut each and every one of these down, got them ready to be spliced. This is the easy part. We're going to just splice all these together, color to color. You're just going pink to pink, red to red, all that, because you just literally cut the wire, and we're just connecting them all. But if you just connect these and you don't do this next step after this though, the thing's not going to start. So let me attach all these and then I'll show you how to make this thing work, because if not, then it's never going to start. I just use these crimpless connectors just to do it, but if you notice that some of the wires have actually poked through this heat shrink, so that's not going to be good. I need to just make sure that each one that has a poke, like that blue one and this black one, both have wires sticking through, so I need to make sure I put some electrical tape on that, and then I'm going to electric tape this whole thing to be, you know, one solid wire. So that'll be our wire, and then we'll be able to actually hook up our key switch. Okay, now we have the harness already done. Boom, that's all cramped up. Now we've got our two ends. This end's going to hook to the engine. Not a lot to do here, that goes to the engine. But this side, you'll notice there are two different plugs, and one of them that goes to here, the other one's going to go to our key switch. You can take it in and out of this thing. If you want it in that thing, you can leave it in there. You can take it out, doesn't really matter. For my other one, I took it out, but this one I got from a dual switch as well, so I had to take it out. And you'll notice it just plugs in, like it's just going to literally plug into this item here. So let me go ahead and plug that in. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and take this out just to take it out. Okay, for the couple of need to knows, one, the lanyard, if you leave this on here, you need to have the lanyard put on there. I like to leave it on the key switch, so that way you can test it. And then also, warning horn, I leave that on there so that way you can test that. I'm just going to zip tie these things together. And then also this right here is for power that goes out to like gauges and stuff. You don't really need anything to do with that, so go ahead and wrap this all up, zip tie it so that way it's nice and neat. Something else to note about this that a lot of people don't know is that the males here, you can see how that's a male plug bullet connector. That is to receive power. There is no power on that. And then the females, if you look at those are to give power. So these wires all have power going to them, and this one is going to receive power. So that way, if you know this comes unplugged, this can't touch something and have a problem. Yeah, females receive power, or females give power and males receive the power. So that's just something neat to note about Yamaha. So now as this sits, this is not going to start any engine. You will never get this to start. You'll be able to get the key to come on and power to go through everything, but it's not going to start because of this plug right here. If you notice, there are two brown wires on this plug, and that is where our main problem is, because this is our neutral safety switch. So if we look in here to the control box, there is that switch there, and unless this is in neutral, depressing that switch, these are going to, I mean, you see the two brown wires, they come over to this apparatus right here that then plugs in. So there is the plug to that, and there are our two brown wires. So if this does not see that neutral safety switch, that key is not going to turn on any engine no matter what you do. So what we need to do is we need to cut these two wires here, and then we will connect them together. That way they will show that the engine is in neutral. Again, you're bypassing all of the safety features of everything with an engine, so you know, do this at your own risk, but this will allow you to start the engine without having anything but this controlled at the engine and plugged into the engine. Alright, there we go. So now we have our neutral safety switch connected, and that means that we could plug this straight into the engine. As long as there's battery voltage at the engine, we'll be able to turn the engine over, and if it had fuel, we'd be able to start and run the engine with nothing else than water, fuel, and a battery power.